Former President Donald Trump is fighting back against the latest legal issues filed against him.
That's right. He's calling the civil suit filed by New York State a, quote, continuation of a witch hunt. The former president is the subject of 8 ongoing investigations across the country right now. Last night in an appeals court, it ruled the DOJ can resume using documents seized from Mar-a-Lago in its criminal probe. The former president is also the main focus of the January 6th committee. They are resuming proceedings next week.
Well, to break all of this down, we've got CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane, who's been tracking it all. Scott, let's start with January 6th. In many ways, that's sort of the big one, at least it was one of the first ones. And the Ginny Thomas news is a major development. There's also a lot going on in Capitol Hill today, and as well as with these defendants for the January 6th insurrection. So break all of this down for us in terms of what is most critical.
Ilana, I'm glad you mentioned that because I've been covering this for more than 18 months. This is the busiest day so far in the investigation of January 6th. Without compare. So let's start off with Ginny Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. Her attorney confirms to CBS News she will sit voluntarily with the House January 6th Select Committee. They had made public their interest in talking to her, among other things, about any interaction she had with Mark Meadows, the former chief of staff to Donald Trump, with potentially those overseeing or looking into allegations of election fraud in Arizona and elsewhere in the United States. There's a time crunch here. Let's not be confusing things. The January 6th Select Committee has an expiration date of the end of the year, and we're already near the end of September. So that interview will likely have to happen in a matter of days or weeks, not months, but it's a voluntary interview, not through subpoena. Oh, by the way, the January 6th Select Committee has announced its next hearing. Wednesday afternoon here in Washington. They haven't announced the agenda or if there'll be witnesses. This may be the final hearing, but the committee has said it's going to show more of its investigation, more of its findings. They've done hundreds of interviews. They've collected tens of thousands of pieces of paper, and they've been working behind the scenes through the summer. They're going to show their work on Wednesday. All the while, in court here in Washington, the busiest day yet in prosecutions for January 6 defendants. Let me tell you about 2 of them in particular. Doug Jensen of Iowa, perhaps the highest profile January 6 defendant because he was at the front of the mob as it approached that lone Capitol Police officer outside the Senate, Officer Eugene Goodman. Doug Jensen, wearing that QAnon shirt, that black shirt in the video you're seeing, is on trial this week. Officer Goodman just testified and detailed what happened January 6. You see him here luring this mob away from senators as they were evacuating, in essence, saving the U.S. Senate that day. But he did more. He hasn't said it publicly because he hasn't done interviews, but during testimony, he revealed he was outside on the front lines trying to stop the mob for a while, came back in to remove the bear spray that was poisoning him, vomited in a bucket, then ran back outside to stop the crowd some more, then came inside and does what you're seeing here, lures the crowd away from the U.S. Senate. One more case to tell you about. Stephen Ayers of Ohio. He went to sentencing today. He pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor. You see him here testifying before the House Select January 6 committee. He cooperated with that investigation and was part of a nationwide televised hearing. He got the mercy of the court today in part because of that. The judge sentenced Stephen Ayers to probation only. The feds wanted multiple months in prison. Instead, Ayers gets probation, and the judge says Ayers showed proper remorse, in part by helping the committee. I told you it was a busy day.
You're right about that, and I continue to be stunned by what Officer Goodman did that day.
Officer Goodman, and we were already so impressed by seeing what he did, and now knowing that background about having been bear sprayed and throwing up and then coming back in.
I do want to switch to one other topic just quickly, Scott. I know you've got so many other threads to pull, but the DOJ's investigation into those documents seized from former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate are another major issue and thread in investigation. The DOJ just handed a big win from an appeals court last night. Bring our viewers up to speed on the latest in that case.
Yeah, Errol, that investigation has resumed, CBS News has learned. It was paused. A federal judge in Florida paused the review of those records seized from Mar-a-Lago, at least some of them, until a special master did an independent review. The appeals court over that judge's head overturned her decision partly, saying the investigation can continue in the meantime as other issues are litigated. There's no reason to stop the Department of Justice or the feds from looking at those records as part of their investigation. What's more, they tossed aside this argument from Team Trump that the former president declassified the records. The appeals court said that's just a red herring, doesn't impact whether the Department of Justice should have access to review those records as part of its investigation. So the investigation, one of multiple investigations now into President Trump, has resumed.
Wow. All right, Scott MacFarlane, thanks for taking the time to stay on top of all of it and breaking it down for us.
Thanks, Scott.
Of course.